Voters are going to possibly face a ballot measure known as Invest in Education, sort of an outgrowth of the Red for Ed movement. Red for Ed is now supporting this, that raises income taxes on the state's wealthiest residents. Assuming it makes the ballot, Mr. Branch, do you support it? And if not, what would you suggest as an alternative? I know you've touched on it, but
Yes.
do you support the Invest in Ed?
I do not. I do not. Actually, I spoke to several groups of Red for Ed about this. First of all, we have 1, 2, 3 that is still being litigated. So we don't know exactly what we need. I don't support new taxes at all, as you just heard all 4 of them said that they do. To me, again, you have to look at what we actually want to do in education. We have a bloated bureaucracy. If we send 80 cents up and we get $1 back, we still have to spend 47% of that in administrative costs just to grant right to get the money back. We'd be better off just keeping our money. We'd get rid of the federal mandates that are keeping our teachers from teaching. So no, I do not support Invest for Ed or any other new tax increases. That just doesn't make any sense to me in my conservative nature.
Ms. Livingston.
No, not Invest in Ed, and here's one huge reason why. The taxation would hurt the people moving into Arizona to open up business. If we don't continue to have the business revenue stream, we're going to be back to where we were pre-Governor Ducey days. We've been digging ourselves out of a hole. We're finally at a plateau, and we want to continue moving forward. This would hurt our economy. It also, again, is not a well-written policy. We don't really know where that $700 million is exactly going. Is it exactly in the classroom? Is it exactly for teachers? Is it for new programs? So that makes me a little leery. And finally, again, if we're just putting dollars without asking for educational reform, where do we go? That's not good policy.
Mr. Gelbart, Red for
Right.
Ed. I'm sorry, Invest in Ed.
Right. I do not support the Invest in Ed income tax hike. I think it's a bad move. I think, you know, the claims that it will bring in the amount of dollars that it will, the almost $700 million, I think that's not necessarily going to be the case. Folks with wealth are able to shift their assets to other states and get out of that, and that'll leave our small businesses holding the bag, and I think it could potentially harm our Arizona economy. I think it's a bad idea. Also, the idea that we're going to support education as long as those other people, those rich people over there, are the ones who pay for it, is just bad public policy and a bad precedent.
And Ms. Douglas, Invest in Ed.
Yeah, no, I do not support Invest in Ed. What that will do is hurt our job creators, and that can jeopardize the 2020 plan that the governor put on the table to get our teachers the raises that they deserve. You know, Mr. Riggs actually talked about a plan initially that he felt that our small businesses who pay less than $50 should be taxed to support our education system. But we can't just look at one group of people, and it can't be our small businesses who are our job creators. To Dr. Branch's point about the federal government, what he needs to understand is the way the system's currently created, if we don't take our federal funds, that means our most vulnerable children are going to be hurt because the federal government will send our money to other states.
Thank you. For those of you scoring at home, that's 4 out of the 5 candidates so far have not supported Invest in Ed. We'll see if it's a clean sweep.
It is.
All right.
It is. And by the way, that's a complete misrepresentation by Mrs. Douglas, but I'm not surprised because she's gone all over the state saying she got rid of Common Core, and all independent objective observers who've looked at the current standards compared to the Common Core say they're virtually the same. And we have a Common Core line state standardized
But the
test.
question is Invest in Ed.
But Invest in Ed, I believe I'm probably the only candidate that submitted a ballot argument against Invest in Ed. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the reason I did is I feel so strongly that it would be counterproductive. It's a tax on entrepreneurial risk-taking and job creation. It's a tax on capital formation and investment. It would ultimately lead, as some of my opponents have pointed out, to a loss of businesses and jobs, and I think, in the long run, a decline in state government revenue, not an increase. And furthermore, there's no accountability provision in Invest in Ed. There's no stipulation that we try to get more dollars into the classroom, and the promoters of Invest in Ed all have one thing in common. They all oppose parental school choice.